in the coming months.
With all due respect, sanctioning the aides and the officials and those types of people well below the Crown Prince, a whole different ball of wax than the Senate saying, no, we have a resolution that's going to hold the Crown Prince accountable. I'm curious to see what that exactly could look like. Is there room, Nile, to be able to do all of those things that you just laid out? You've got the proxy war in Yemen. You've got al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula on the ground in Yemen as well. So we have some things to get done. Is there room to also say, Saudi Arabia, what are you going to do with this Crown Prince? Isn't there anybody else you could put there?
Yeah, I mean, clearly, in the view of the Senate, and it's important to remember this, of course, is a non-binding resolution, but it's a powerful statement, I think, from the U.S. Senate here to the administration. But I think it's it's important also to bear in mind that with regard to the Crown Prince, no amount of U.S. pressure is going to, remove the Crown Prince from his position of authority in Saudi Arabia.
If we cut arms
deals,
if we start to get tough on the money, you don't think so?
I don't think that the United States would be seeking to, remove the Crown Prince from his position of power. That is a matter, of course, for the Saudi Arabian government and their people to decide ultimately. But certainly, I think that what you are seeing certainly is a growing international isolation of the Crown Prince. You're seeing that on many fronts. But it is vital at the same time. The United States, I think, continues to work with Saudi Arabia, especially in the ongoing war in Yemen. This war in Yemen is being fueled by Iran and Iranian proxy organizations, movements, especially above all the Houthi.
But Saudi Arabia has had a hand in this
itself.
too. I mean, when you talk about millions of people starving, that's on everybody's hands.
I think that, the situation in Yemen is incredibly complex, but without a doubt, I think the number one actor in all of this responsible for the humanitarian crisis in Yemen is the Iranian regime, which has been funding a brutal war in the country, funding a terrorist organization, overthrowing the legitimate elected government of Yemen. And so I do think Iran has to be held to account. Certainly there'll be pressure on Saudi Arabia as well. But let's not forget that it's the Iranians who are behind so much of the brutality and the humanitarian situation in Yemen at this time. And it's Tehran that has to be held fully to account on this.
Were you surprised to see this, or do you see it as forward movement with this resolution if it passes in the Senate to hold the Crown Prince accountable?
I think there's a great deal of anger in the U.S. Senate over the way in which the Saudis have conducted themselves. And a lot of this indignation that is aimed at the Saudi Arabian government is fully justified, actually. And, you cannot have the state-sanctioned murder of a journalist by the Saudi regime, and also a U.S. resident here. And so this does send a very clear signal to Saudi Arabia. But, the reality is that sometimes U.S. partners do not have stellar human rights records. Another example is Turkey, for example. And certainly the United States, I think, should certainly condemn any human rights violations. But at the same time, the U.S.-Saudi partnership is vitally important. It's a partnership that in the long term will save U.S. lives in terms of constraining Iran's ambitions in the Middle East. So we cannot end that partnership, but at the same time we have to hold the Saudi Arabian government to account.
Nile Gardiner getting us to look at it from a Gestalt view, 37,000 feet, seeing all the options on the table and variables in the mix. I appreciate your time from the Heritage Foundation today.
Thank you very much.